Picture this. You land on a brand new website, and before you can even read the first sentence, a giant box drops down across your screen. Accept all cookies, it says, in big green friendly letters. And like 90% of internet users on the planet, you do not even glance at the small print. You exhale, you tap, you forget about it. It is pure muscle memory, a reflex built to make the box vanish as fast as possible. And the man who quietly invented the whole system back in 1994 has spent the last few years admitting his own creation became something he never asked for. Surprising histories. Today, we are following the small, strange digital trail that follows you everywhere online. We are going to dig into what cookies really are, why they ended up with such a curiously friendly name, and why their inventor now compares his own creation to a key being used the wrong way by the entire world. To make sense of any of this, we have to go back to a much smaller version of the internet. The year is 1994. And the early web had a problem so basic it almost sounds funny today. It was completely forgetful. Every time you clicked a link or jumped to a new page, the website you were on simply erased you from its memory. Picture trying to shop online in those years. You drop a pair of shoes into your basket, browse to a second pair, and the first pair just disappears. You hit checkout and the basket is empty. The web was a long corridor of locked doors, and every door wiped your footprint clean the moment you stepped through it. Onto the scene walks a 24-year-old programmer named Lou Montulli at a young company called Netscape. Without a fix, online shopping, personalized pages, staying logged in between sessions, none of it could exist. So Lou worked the problem, and he came up with one of the most quietly important inventions in modern web history. But before we get into how it works, there is one detail almost nobody questions, the strange little name he picked for it. The word cookie sounds friendly, soft, innocent, almost edible. And that is precisely why the branding has held up for 30 years. The actual origin has nothing to do with anything you might bake in an oven. Lou Montulli pulled the term from a piece of obscure programming slang called a magic cookie. A magic cookie was a tiny block of data that two programs would silently exchange, something like a private handshake only they could read. The nickname stuck because it felt warm. It made an otherwise invisible piece of code feel like something you could trust without thinking about it. Because if these things had been called identification packets, or behavior trackers, or surveillance tags, nobody on Earth would be tapping accept all without reading first. So how does a cookie actually behave inside your browser? The simplest way to picture it is a coat check slip at a museum. You hand your jacket to the attendant, and she gives you a small numbered tag in return. That tag knows nothing personal about you. It is a single number that links you to the jacket on the rack. Visit a website for the first time, and the same kind of exchange happens silently. The site slides a tiny text file into your browser. That is the cookie. Click around to the next page, and your browser hands the slip back over, and the site goes, "Ah, there you are. You are still logged in. Your basket still has those shoes. You still have dark mode switched on." These are what we call first-party cookies. They are written and read only by the website you are actually visiting, and most of the time, they are entirely on your side. They are the silent machinery that makes the modern internet livable. Here is the catch, though. The slips you accept on a website are almost never just from that one website. And this is where the whole story bends in a much darker direction. Step back into the museum lobby for a second. You walk in, the attendant hands you your number, ed slip, nothing weird about that. But as you take a few steps inside, you notice something strange. There are dozens of other people standing around the lobby, each one quietly slipping their own numbered tag into your coat pocket as you walk past. One belongs to an advertiser, another to a social media network, another to a data broker whose name you have never heard. You did not invite any of them in, but the moment you walk through the front door, they got their tag onto you anyway. That is exactly what happens the instant you click Accept All. You are accepting slips from a whole crowd of invisible strangers buried inside the website's code. These extra ones are called third-party cookies. And what they do with their tags once you walk back out the door is where this stops being a story about technology and starts becoming a story about you. Have you ever glanced at a watch online just for a few seconds, and then for the next 3 weeks that exact same watch quietly chases you around the internet? It pops up on Instagram, in the sidebar of news articles, in front of YouTube videos, even inside your email. That is not paranoia. That is not your phone secretly listening to your conversations. That is one of those third-party tags doing exactly what it was built to do. The second you tapped Accept All on the watch retailer, you legally cleared an entire advertising network to drop their slips into your browser. Those slips do not stay home. They follow you onto every other site that uses the same network, which happens to be most of the internet. And quietly, in the background, they are stitching together a profile of you, the brands you like, the price tier you can afford, the hours you tend to scroll, the kind of content you watch at 2 in the morning when sleep is not happening. That profile does not sit in some quiet folder. It gets auctioned off in milliseconds to whichever advertiser bids highest hundreds of times every single day. And the man who started this whole chain reaction back in 1994 has watched it happen year after year. Here is the part that makes the story almost sad. Lou Montulli never wanted any of this to happen. The internet he was trying to build in 1994 was much smaller and much gentler. He just wanted your shopping cart to remember your shoes and the web to feel like a place that recognized you, the way a corner shop owner remembers what you usually order. He had no concept that his small piece of code would one day power a global tracking economy worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year. In interviews, he has compared what eventually happened to his invention to designing a key meant to open your own front door, and then watching the entire world quietly use that same key to read your private mail instead. The cookie itself was never the bad guy. The way other people decided to use it, that is where the actual harm crept in. And for years, ordinary internet users had no realistic way to opt out. The slips were already in your pocket before you even noticed them being placed there. Only recently has any of that started to shift. The major browsers are now in the process of killing off third-party cookies for good. New privacy laws across Europe and parts of the United States are forcing websites to give visitors a real choice, not just a fake one. Those banners that used to come with one giant green button now legally have to offer some form of reject option, sometimes hidden behind a tiny gray link labeled Manage Preferences, sometimes sitting right beside Accept All. But it is always somewhere on the page. Spending 3 seconds on the reject button instead of the green one shuts down the vast majority of that hidden tracking. The website still works exactly the same. You stay logged in. Your basket still remembers your shoes. The only thing that changes is that the entire crowd of strangers in the lobby suddenly cannot follow you home anymore. So the next time one of those banners drops down across your screen, you will know exactly what is going on behind the curtain. You will know the difference between the friendly slip from the website itself and the dozens of slips being quietly slid into your pocket by people you never agreed to meet. And you will know that one small, deliberate tap can take a real piece of your digital life back. If you enjoyed this digital deep dive, please hit the like button, share this video with a friend who always clicks accept, and subscribe to Simple Things, Surprising Histories for more fascinating stories behind our everyday world. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.